Let's go. Time to wet that whistle for a midweek appetite here. All things NBA. We got 9 games on the DraftKings board. And, of course, one of those games featuring the 76ers and the, can't find a win, Detroit Pistons. They're now on 20. And I don't know if they're saying hit me here, but I don't know if they're looking for 21 either. Let's just put it that way. 20 losses in a row by the Detroit Pistons, taking on the Sixers. Will that streak come to an end tonight at home? We'll find out. We're going to get up on all things NBA right here. Picks and roll. You got Sean Brace. I am Sean Brace. And, of course, covering things for us here on The Gambler, our Sixers insider, all things NBA, Sean Barnard. Be sure to follow him at Sean_Barnard1. I got caught up there. Did you see that? I was ready to say you, and then I said my name, Sean B. It hasn't happened yet, but it just did there. Hello, Sean.
How we doing, Sean? Feels good to be chopping it up about the NBA. A lot going on. I would be lying to you if I said I was not afraid that this back-to-back against the Pistons, that the Sixers risk being the team. I don't think it's ultimately going to happen, that they've been a mature handling their business pretty much night in and night out this season. But the Sixers do hold the longest consecutive record for losses with 26. Pistons still got a couple to go for that one, but we're going to see if they can snap it against the Sixers.
Yeah, and this is a Detroit team that I've been paying attention to a lot over the last few weeks. I've had probably about 4 or 5 wagers on in the last 3 weeks, including on Monday, where they ended up losing by 8. It wasn't that close. It was against Indiana. The Pacers were the play, even though it did get a little dicey at the end there. Again, the spread was 7. Pacers had walked away with the 8-point win. It was a good first half. Pacers were just a better team, and that's what we can expect here if the Sixers handle business. I don't think that they're going to go in there and lose. Let's just put that to the side. Let's talk about the 12-point spread, and we're going to break this game down in its entirety. Trust me when I tell you that, as well as the full board here, 9 games total on DraftKings. A lot to get to in the NBA. So that's the question about the Sixers here is I'm going to say they're not going to lose, but the 12-point spread, that's something that we will definitely be breaking down. But, of course, in the NBA last night, let's go ahead and get right to some of the games that took place, some of the numbers. And you and I saw the board very similarly, I think, when it came to as far as the spreads on some of the games, and was able to get a couple wins, but a lot came down to the final game of the evening, which was the Golden State Warriors and the Phoenix Suns. And you and I were both on Golden State. And everything was good. It was a tight game. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they would have won the game, but I feel better about our chances to find a way to win on the road in Phoenix if Draymond Green did not get thrown out of that game. Last night, what he did to Nurkic, it's too much, Sean. It's way too much. He was just suspended for 5 games, putting Gobert into the headlock. He's given a ton of money back to the league by being suspended. It's not registering. It's not. So what do you have to do to get the message across to Draymond? Because right now, somebody's going to hit him over the head with a chair. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him one bit. You got to suspend him. And I'm not kidding when I say this. Take it past the All-Star break. I'm not kidding. If I'm Commissioner Silver, enough is enough. 10 games isn't going to get the job done. What's going to be different about 10 games? No, you need to penalize him. You need to penalize him so much that the team is going to have an effect. And look, you want to sit there and say, well, that's way down. Dude, I was thinking about the rest of the season. Enough is enough. There is a highlight reel going around where it's cheap shot after cheap shot, year after year, kicking people in the nuts, running by, grabbing them. Bro, this ain't 88. This isn't the bad boys Detroit Pistons. This game has evolved. We're a long way from that time. Draymond Green, what he did last night, talking about I was trying to sell a foul. No, you're not. It's ridiculous. Suspend him for, I need more than 10 games. Way more than 10 games. Where do you stand?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I'll start by saying that the 5-game suspension he received for the Rudy Gobert altercation was the longest in-game or suspension for an on-court action that Adam Silver has handed out to this point. You have to pass that with this one. The NBA has a legitimate Draymond Green problem that it overshadows him as a player, all these altercations, all these actions, and they're just straight up unnecessary. At best, that was ridiculously reckless last night. And to dive into Draymond on the season, the Warriors have played 23 games this year. Draymond has played in 15, last night being his 15th. He's been suspended 5 games for the altercation with Rudy Gobert. He's been thrown out in 3 separate games. He's also missed 2 games for injury and 1 game for personal reasons. He's been top 6 in the NBA in technical fouls every year since 2015. He led the NBA in technical fouls last year. It just does not matter to him. That there are guys that do it right. There are guys that are physical. They are that instigator, and they still have the impact on the court. Draymond has surpassed that. That what he does on the basketball court is not about basketball anymore. It's him wrecking havoc, causing harm, doing all the other stuff. And even last night, like, you saw it boiling. Like, I was watching that whole first half of, you're seeing like him hold on to screens a little longer, or him get a little extra shove, or grab guys a little bit unnecessary. And you could see it completely boiling up. And then out of nowhere, you more or less just punched Yusuf Nurkic in the face. Like, you can say you were flailing for a call. You can say you didn't mean to hit him. The bottom line is you punched the dude square in the face. That is what happened. He should have been ejected. It has to stop. And I hope that there is a hefty suspension for this.
I think it stopped. Well, I don't know if it stops. It's Draymond. Draymond's going to do what he wants to do. The team is going to have it's going to have an impact on the team because we already saw, look, last night they were in a good spot and all of a sudden everything just went completely sideways. And of course it was still a tight game, but and who cares? I'm not going to sit here and say they win that game no matter what. We know what Draymond brings to being on the Golden State Warriors. He is one of the, if not the backbone of the operation. I would be very careful to say that because Steph Curry he's every organ, every bone in the body, but Draymond's pretty damn important to that Golden State Warrior team. Anyways, the big difference for me is all you got to hear is what Nurkic had to say last night. After the game, when you have a player in the league, and that's why I'm saying I think you're going to see somebody get absolutely reckless and hit him over the head with a chair, or he's going to get jumped, or just because the players around the league it's enough is enough. It's just, it's way out of pocket. And what he did last night was ridiculous. You got a guy that just D'ing him up. I know they're physical. I know they're bumping. There was none of that. It's just D'ing him up. Everybody knows what they get in return when they D up Draymond Green. And the next thing you know, he flails and smacks him right upside the head. Anyways, post-game, this is what Nurkic had to say about Draymond Green, which I think is going to be a huge mark or definitely something that Commissioner Silver is going to be listening to a few times before he hands down that suspension.
I was behind the play. I don't think what's going on with him. I don't know. Personally, I feel like that brother needed help. I'm glad he not trying to choke me, but at the same time, and nothing to do with basketball, man. Like, I'm just out there trying to play basketball, they're swinging. I think we saw that often, but hope he, whatever he got in his life, get better. So,
you got a player right now, and as I said, that's going to be a popular opinion where it's like, all right, enough is enough. Like, what does he have going on? He's got anger management issues. It's absurd. And there's no place for it. Like I said, there was no back and forth. Nurkic was playing ball. He's out there playing ball. And next thing you know, he gets punched in the head when he's not ready for it. It's assault. It's straight up assault. And if you go ahead and look at the highlight reel that I just hit retweet on, that's everywhere, year after year after year, these things are happening on the court. And I hate to sound soft, but I'm surprised nobody has tried to go after him after a game or just take it into their own hands. Like, dude, you can't do that stuff anymore.
And to me, it makes it so much worse that, like, you feel it coming, or there's going to be something, just as it was last night. I was looking at it at halftime, which, by the way, he had 0 points, 2 rebounds, and 1 assist at that point, not having the impact in the box score there. And I could tell that he was agitated. And I was looking at the lines that it was at 14.5 for his points, rebounds, and assists. And I was thinking, like, do you hit send on the under and just think, like, his night might end shortly? And the fact that that might even be, like, a legitimate strategy at this point is crazy. But I do feel like that's the case, that he is carrying that risk of getting ejected basically on a nightly basis. So, and another point that I kind of have seen tossed around, but I feel like Steve Kerr has not got enough criticism for the way that he has handled this either. And Steve Kerr is a guy that's very vocal in both NBA situations and world situations, that he's very outspoken and opinionated on, which is absolutely fine. But when you have a guy within your organization that is a huge point of scrutiny, like his answer after the game when being asked about it, all he said was, I have not seen the replay yet. I have not watched the tape. I don't have an opinion yet. And, like, that's fine. But you know what? Go watch the tape and tell us how you feel. Like, this is your guy that you need to handle. Get your own ducks in the row. And it really has not happened. That I feel like Draymond's gotten more and more out of control at this stage in his career. We really should be hitting the point where he's past that and being the mature guy, the leader. And, like, as much as he wants to criticize, like, last year with the Jordan Poole situation, the vibes never being right, you were the reason for that, Draymond. You were the guy that punched Jordan Poole in the face to make things weird in the locker room. And like, he keeps getting chances. He obviously has quite the resume and still is a talented basketball player in the right situation. But the overshadowed situation of all this off-court, or I guess on-court stuff, whatever you want to call these altercations, is really just overshadowing who he is as a player.
Well said. And one thing that I know is being brought up, like you brought up with Steve Kerr, it's like, all right, what about inside the locker room? And you got a guy like Steph, and you got a guy like Clay, right? Guys that have been with them from day one. What are they saying to him? Well, I think they're probably, number one, have his back, right? It's Draymond Green. He hasn't changed one bit. But these suspensions are going to continue to add up. And when you're going into battle down a man, especially a man as valuable to your team as Draymond Green is, I would imagine that they're going to say something different. Now, I don't know. What did they say about the Rudy Gobert situation? It didn't seem all that bad in my eyes. It felt like Draymond Green had something out for Rudy Gobert, took at the attempt, or when he had the opportunity to do so, went after him, put him in the headlock. Nobody likes Rudy Gobert. Oh, well, it was funny. This isn't funny. This is no longer funny. It's not funny when you smash somebody upside the head that's not expecting it, man. There's just no need for it, no room for it. And I know people are saying 10 games. I just don't think 10 games is enough. I don't know what people will say to that. But again, 5 games didn't really send a message. I think, over $3 million he's been suspended, or he's been fined. In his career in the NBA, over $3 million, and he's still doing this. What will get it to register for Draymond Green? You suspend him till after the All-Star break.
Yeah, I would love to see a lengthy suspension. As I mentioned, the 5-game suspension he called for the Gobert is the largest suspension Adam Silver has handed out for an on-court situation. It should more than double that. That I would love to even see it in like the 20-game standpoint. And I know it's extreme for like this specific.
Extreme. But he's extreme.
Exactly. It should be. And I disagree with the notion. I've seen the pushback on the NBA not considering past altercations and stuff. You have to. Like, this is a trend. This is a theme that even though this specific situation, if you look at it and say a 20-game suspension is nuts, when you think of the body of work and the altercations and the length of situations that he's put himself in, why not throw it on him? And I think that would solve a lot of issues. And Golden State has a lot of problems on their hand beyond Draymond as well.
Agreed. Well, I felt like we were going to be on the right side last night. Oh, well, it is what it is. On to the next one. And, of course, that is where we're at today. We got 9 games, including, as I said, the 76ers and the Pistons going head-to-head. As Sean pointed it out, a little history on the line. Hopefully, the Sixers can keep it going here from the standpoint of handing Detroit Pistons another loss. They are tied their single-season franchise record to Detroit with 20 straight, and it's got to be really tough for Monty and company. 21 the Sixers, as you put out, they had tied the single season mark at 26 back in 2013 and 14, and in 14 and 15, which is just absurd. However, here we are today, 12-point spread. That's all we're focused on here. I don't think anyone's going to pitch the idea that the 76ers are going to lose. Even if they do sit Joel Embiid, I'm not worried one bit. I think this team can still go out there and win without Joel Embiid. Detroit's that bad of a squad. Don't know what the number will do. Possibly, no, Joel Embiid would probably cut it down to about 8.5, I would think, maybe 8. But here we are with 12 point spread on DraftKings Sportsbook. 233 is our total there. I just don't see any reason why I would take the Pistons here. Again, I believed in this team on Monday to put up a fight. They did. They're just not a good basketball team. And the Sixers are playing well. So I'll give the 12 here. I think the Sixers go on the road and come away with a double-digit victory. You say to that what, Sean?
Yeah, I do as well. And normally these are the type of lines that particularly scare me with the Sixers team, that in general, a characteristic of kind of the past couple of years has been this team gets up for big games, but struggles to have that killer instinct against kind of the smaller squads. We have not really seen that this year. And specifically listening in on some of the comments from guys like Patrick Beverley, Tyrese Maxey, Daryl Morey about the vibes, the business-like approach that they're taking, the consistency that they're practicing and going through the routine with Nick Nurse. I'm all in on this team. I think they do take care of business. I do think they cover that 12 to 12.5 there. That I think they come in and just can't handle business is, I guess, the theme that I'll put. That They're not going to be distracted with things, play around. There's been less of that this year. I think tonight's the type of game. And as much as we're speaking about like the losing streak and things like that, you better believe the Sixers are aware of that too, that they don't want to be the team that has that notch next to their name of snap the streak and allow to win. So I do think they go in, they take care of business start to finish and end up this one in a blowout.
Yeah, Sixers the last 3 straight wins, averaging 134 points in those contests. So I would expect them to continue here. Again, they made light work out of the Wizards, and I think the Wizards are on the same playing field as the Detroit Pistons here. And, of course, their record would tell you that as much. So here we are. I think if Joel Embiid plays tonight, just continue more of the same. And I was a little disappointed by staring at that Sixers game against the Wizards and trying to find the other games on the board as like, yeah, they're the ones. I just thought my bias was clouding my judgment a little bit. And man, the Sixers, that was such an easy win over the Wizards. I'm not saying it's going to be like that tonight, but I'm going to back our squad in this one, given double digits here. Anything else from this game as far as a player prop standpoint?
I like Kelly Oubre at 10.5 in this one. You can get that at -110. Oubre still getting his feet a little bit and finding his role. I think tonight has the potential to be a night where he gets some free reign and additional minutes due to the blowout, that he still hasn't quite been exactly what he was to start the season. I think the Sixers are trying to get him back to that form, and I think tonight's the night where they're going to have that type of opportunity. So I like him to clear that 10.5 and finish closer to maybe that 15 and maybe even 15+ mark tonight.
All right. And anything else from the Melton standpoint, who gets a bunch of shots off? He played 27 minutes in that one. Just looking at volume here, guys that are actually pulling volume. If it does turn into a little bit of a blowout, is there somebody else that you would look at that's getting the production or getting the opportunities, like I said, with the minutes played here from the Sixers standpoint? Or maybe it's somebody off the bench, like Pat Bev going out there, hitting 3 of 4, cracking a Miller Lite post game. You got to love that.
Oh, absolutely. And Pat Bev shooting the ball incredibly well. We can't see his numbers up yet, but that wouldn't surprise me closer to tip off that when you look at those numbers, the 1.5 threes is something I think you can play for him. He continues to speak about, and Nick Nurse continues to speak about the desire for him to get up more 3-point volume. He's shooting the ball really well. So the past couple of stretch, really dating back about 15 games now. So I am buying the stock on Pat Bev. I also kind of like the DeAnthony Melton, the points, rebounds, and assists at 19.5 tonight. I think he clears that 20 mark. He's been playing much better basketball of late. Seeing a little bit of the return of his struggles to finish around the rim, but he's still shooting the ball very well from 3, playmaking a little bit, gets up for rebounds. So I like the Melton number at 19.5 as well.
All right, next game up, let's go ahead and hit the Pelicans and Wizards. Just speaking about the Wizards, 7:10 p.m. Pelicans on the road, 7.5-point favorites, 241.5 is your total on this one. The big talking point in this game will be whether or not what type of performance you get from Zion Williamson. Now, Zion, of course, here's all the naysayers and everybody cracking the jokes, talking to Stephen A., how chefs are hitting him up and he can eat the table. Well, Zion had something to say back after his last performance. Here's what he had to say about that.
If it comes from a great place and a place where they just want to see me do better, thank you. But if it comes from anywhere else, everybody entitled to their own opinion. Can't control that.
Is there any of that stuff that you hear and you feel like it's too far or they do too much or stuff like that?
At the end of the day, I can't control what no grown man do. Can't control what no grown adult does. All I can do is control the things I can control, lock in on myself, lock in on my teammates, coaches, and everybody with the Pelicans, the city, and try to win.
That's it. That's all you can do, Zion. And you know what? Watch your weight a little bit too. I think we have to be honest with that. I just don't see any issues with it. I'm not there. I know he's a big, heavy-set dude, but bottom line is if he's producing, that's all that matters. Now, the issue is in that in the Vegas, in the in-season tournament, he didn't produce, right? Yeah. And now people are questioning like his desire to be in New Orleans. What are we getting in return from Zion? It's not an A effort every time he takes the floor. Now that's real. That's real. So here we are tonight. And as I said, on the road against the Wizards, there should be no excuses. Zion should deliver. And if he does, they should go into DC beating up on a Wizards team. I don't care if it's 7, 8, 9 points. Give me the Pelicans all day in this one. Where do you stand on this one?
Yeah, I agree. I think the Pelicans come in here to take care of business, cover that 7.5, and I do think that there's going to be a big game from Zion Williamson. And as far as the talks about the weight, the conditioning, I want to start by kind of distinguishing that there is a difference there between being in shape and being overweight. That the clearest example that look at like an NFL offensive lineman, that those guys obviously carry a ton of body weight, but they are in phenomenal shape as athletes. I think Zion's got a conditioning issue. The weight absolutely does not help. But to me, the core is when you watch him play, he looks gassed. He's not getting up and down the floor quickly. And for a guy with his size, with his athleticism, really his defining trait as a basketball player has really been his burst. That the way he can explode past guys, explode over guys. When you are lacking in conditioning and struggling with your weight, that all goes away. And the most frustrating part with the Zion Williamson whole conversation is he has it in him. That he's incredibly talented as a basketball player. At his peak, he's a top 10 NBA player, but we have not seen him at that peak really much of his career as a whole. And even looking at these past couple games, he had 10 points against the Kings on December 4th, 13 points against the Lakers, 13, 2 rebounds and 3 assists. And then against the Timberwolves last game, he explodes for 36 points on 17 shots there. That's the Zion Williamson. That's what he's capable of. I'm hoping this lit a fire under him. I do have some like legitimate concerns with his mindset and how hungry he is. I'm still not ready to believe that he is kind of changed his career around by any means, but I am buying that this is a nice opportunity for him to put up some good stats, ball out, and show that he is still that guy, because I do believe at his core he is. He just has to realize that himself.
All right, next game up on the DraftKings board here, 7:40 p.m. Let's head to South Beach, and these two teams have already met 2 times already this season. Miami getting the best of the Charlotte Hornets both times. Tonight, it's an 8-point spread. I think it's a couple too many here, Sean. I'm actually going to lean with the road dog here with Charlotte. 222 is your total. Miami's still dealing with a ton of injuries, so we'll see what that looks like when it comes a little closer to game time. But Tyler Hero's been out for the last 15. Bam's missed a ton of action in the last 9 games. I think 6 out of the last 9. Jimmy's still doing his thing. Miami has quality players, but give me Charlotte to show some heart on the road in Miami. Where are you at in this one?
Yeah, I think I'm on the same side that I like the +8 there. I do still think the Heat get the win in this one. The guy that still keeps popping out to me is Jaime Jaquez for the Miami Heat, giving them some really good minutes, and a guy that does it all as far as playmaking, rebounding. So keep an eye on that player prop combo. I do not see it at this point in time. And it looks like Bam Adebayo is going to be missing tonight's game as well, which is a big deal for the Heat. I think the Hornets keep it a game. They're a better team than their record indicates as well. They have some talent there. Miles Bridges has been playing good basketball. LaMelo Ball, there we go, still out for the Hornets there. But Brandon Miller kind of finding his stride for his rookie year a little bit. He had a bit of a quiet start and is kind of playing some good ball again. So I think the Hornets have enough talent to keep this a game, and I kind of just question the Heat's ability to blow out teams.
Yeah, you always have to wonder about the the Miami flu, all that, but like you said, they have good players down there in Charlotte. So why not? Why not roll with them here, catching 8? I'm looking at Scary Terry 23.5 on DraftKings. That's basically where he's at all season long. Bridges in there at 19.5. Brandon Miller 15.5. Not really anything screaming to me from the player prop. If you had to go with one player to keep an eye on in this matchup, who you going with?
I wish Jaquez was up there, but if I got to go on the board right now, I probably go with the Scary Terry at 23.5. That he's quietly been tremendous this year.
Yep.
Look at his stats so far on the year. He's really been the guy that has been just carrying that Hornets team. And on the season, his averages this year, 23.6 points per game, 7.7 assists, 3.5 rebounds, shooting 38% from 3. That's the real deal good production from a guy that I think is pretty much consistently overlooked in his career. So I like Scary Terry to go in there and have a game, and he's capable of getting red hot, just like among the best of the NBA.
All right, next game up on the board here. Let's head to this game is in Toronto. So we'll go north of the border. We're going to get to Toronto and Atlanta here. Raptors a 1.5 favorite. 241 is your total in this one, 7:40 p.m. Both teams dealing with the whole will he be here or won't he be here after the trade deadline. Trae Young, you think he gets dealt? Do you think Trae Young gets dealt this year?
I don't think so. I think that they continue trying to make this work. I'm not a DeJounte Murray guy whatsoever, and I think that was the wrong guy to kind of sell the farm and make the co-star. I get the theory behind it of DeJounte being more of a defensive-minded guy, having more size, but I think they kind of step on each other's toes a little more. I think ultimately Trae Young stays with the Hawks and is that number 1 guy for them, though.
All right, 1.5. This is the one game that really registered with me. Now, both teams are, I believe, 4-game losing streaks, if I'm not mistaken, or is it 3? Not really putting it together this year. Both teams sitting with 9 wins. I just like the home squad. Give me Toronto. It's a low point spread, 1.5. I'm going to ride with the Raptors on this one. From the standpoint of possibly, Bogdanovich went off in that last game. He had 10 3-pointers, I believe, in that game. So I would look for him. He's not listed here. Not seeing anything from his stats just yet. But nothing really from the Raptors side. Again, just a side for me here. No player prop. I'm going to take the Raptors. That's the one game that was screaming to me on the board. And Michael checked in. He said, one lock for tonight. Let's go Toronto. I'm taking the Raptors at home tonight. Where do you stand, Sean?
Okay, I like that. These are two of the teams that I've had the hardest time kind of putting my finger on so far this year. I'm staying away from a side. If I got to give a play in this matchup, I'm going with the OG Anunoby points, rebounds, and assists at 23.5 there. He's a guy that's getting overlooked in the pecking order with the Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam conversation, but he's still a very capable basketball player. I think that 23 is too disrespectful for him. It feels like we're approaching the point where he's starting to find his stride a little bit. Still a very good player, and I don't want that to get overlooked. So I think he gets enough to cover that in this one and end somewhere in the vicinity of like 18, 5-5.
All right. Won't spend too much time on that game because that's an ugly one. But again, sometimes there's money in the dumpsters, Mark Henry Jr. would say. Next game up on the DraftKings card, and this is going to be a good one. This is probably the biggest game of the night. Definitely, well, Brooklyn and Phoenix is sneaky. But this one right here, a little payback. Will it be or won't it be? We'll find out. Bucks and Pacers. These two teams just met up in Vegas, where the Pacers got the best of the Bucks, where they were, I believe, 5 or 6 point dogs. This one being played in Milwaukee. That one was in Vegas. Right back to the same point spread. 6.5, 258.5 is your total in this one. Sean, last time it was on December the 7th. Just last week, 128 to 119. Will there be anything different in this matchup compared to that game last Friday night, in your opinion?
I think a little bit. I think the in-season tournament upped the stakes and the ante for when you look at the Pacers, the way they played specifically for the Bucks. I think the moment meant more to the Pacers in that in-season tournament matchup than I think it did to the Bucks. So I think that changes a little bit in this one. I ultimately think the Bucks kind of get their get back here. The 6.5 still feels like kind of a lot to me. I am buying the stock of this Pacers team that I think they are not contenders or legit threats in the playoffs, but still a very good basketball team that will be in the playoffs and at least have a conversation that will make life difficult for a high-end contender. So I think I lean Bucks in this one, but the 6.5 scares me a little bit. And I know it sounds crazy, but I still kind of like the over, even though it is at 258.5 there. The Bucks are another team that likes to get up and down, play fast, just like the Pacers do. The Lakers made the change by full court pressing on Indiana in that in-season tournament final. I don't think that the Bucks quite have the same personnel to be able to pull that off. So I kind of lean towards the over and the Pacers to still cover that at plus 6.5 in this one.
That's crazy. 258. They just have to be on such a pace and continue that same pace from the beginning of the game to the end. Like, there can't be any lulls. For that to go over, it just has to be full bore, straight ahead, fifth gear wide open. And maybe a couple missed shots here and there, but you can't go through a 3-minute stretch in a quarter where they're not hitting. You still like the over. You're insane. I love it, but good luck. Good luck on 259. I hope it hits. All right. It is a lot of points, but it's what we continue to see from the Pacers, and a lot of those games are going over. You know what? Tomorrow I'll go ahead and dig some of the season numbers as far as to the over, to the under, and of course, who's the best ATS. We'll get some of those numbers on tomorrow's picks and roll. Next game up.
By the way, to be official with it here, the Pacers and the Bucks are the top two teams in terms of points per game this year. Pacers averaging 128.5 and Bucks at 122.6. Both of them teams that make a conscious effort to up the pace in their game. So yeah, I think this is going to be a straight up track meet.
Am I wrong to be inside that locker room going, guys, we got to play some defense tonight?
The Bucks for sure. The Bucks for sure should be saying that. Yes.
Hey, boys, we're not going to win if we don't play defense. We know what they can do. They can score points in bunches. We have to be better defending. I don't know, right? Like, it's crazy to bring it back to the Sixers. I remember the Sixers were a hell of a lot better defensively, and especially when Joel Embiid was out there on the floor. It was always those numbers would come down with Joel Embiid, one of the best rim protectors in the game. This year, I believe I was reading an article last week or a couple of days ago that said it's not so much this season, and I understand that. Now, what I would throw back into the people saying that that's a huge deal. I want my defense to be there. Don't get me wrong. I think once the playoffs come around and the Sixers are in it, then they'll defend better, especially with Joel Embiid out there. But I want my team to score. But there's got to be a yin and yang to it, right? Like if I'm a Pacer fan or a Milwaukee Bucks fan, let's be specific about that because they were the front runners. They were the odds-on favorite to win the NBA championship after that deal went down. Like, dude, that's your missing part, right? Do you think they make a move to possibly go and get somebody at the trade deadline to be a better defender in there? They got to do something because they got championship aspirations.
Yeah, I think it's more them figuring it out within the walls of the locker room that this is a very different style than we've seen from the Bucks in years past. And obviously the obvious change here is Damian Lillard being a part of this roster. He's a guy that does like to play more up-tempo, shoot the ball early in the shot clock, all of these things. But when you think of what the Milwaukee Bucks have had success, and mind you, a team that has won a championship by playing this style, that they are a half-court, defensive-minded, grinded-out team. That's the way that has been built around Giannis, and it's been very different this year. So I do think that they have to have kind of a look themselves in the mirror. How do we get back to that? Some of their defensive numbers to start the year were ridiculously bad. They've seen some signs of improvement on that. They were last in the league in defensive rating through the first handful of games. They also been last in the league in pick and roll coverage, which to me is a huge schematic deal on what Adrian Griffin's trying to get this team to do. Considering like when you have Brook Lopez and when you have Giannis and even guys like Bobby Portis and Chris Middleton, you just simply should not be that bad of a defensive basketball team. So I think it's more of them looking in themselves, figuring it out. But yeah, it absolutely has not been good on that side of the ball.
All right. On to the next one. We'll see what happens in that game. That's definitely going to be one that gets a screen for a lot of time, a lot of the evening at my house. The Memphis Grizzlies on the road against the Houston Rockets. DraftKings showing this one 7.5 for Houston, 211.5 is your total. Now, I guarantee 95% of the people out there, NBA fans, 95% of NBA fans, if I walked up to them and I said, how many games do you think that the Houston Rockets have won at home and they're on a current streak right now? I don't think that anyone would be able to say the number because it kind of floored me as well. Tonight, they're looking to extend their win streak at home to 11 games. They have been dominant at home. This is crazy to see from the Houston Rockets. Udoka has got it going right now, especially in Houston here. 7.5. The Grizzlies are absolutely atrocious. I think Ja, if I'm not mistaken, is coming back in a couple games. Probably the most disappointing team in the NBA. Are they, in your opinion? Who's the most disappointing team in your mind so far this year?
NBA, I almost want to say the Jazz, even though kind of the bar was pretty on the floor for them. I guess I'll go Bulls. I think Bulls is my answer because that's another team that like everyone's in their own heads wanting to get traded, and there's just too much talent for them to be as bad as they are. They're sitting at the 12th seed in the East right now with the 9-16 record. So I'll go Bulls is my answer there.
I think the thing about me with the Chicago Bulls is I was on the train 2 years ago and they fell flat on their face and that's left a bad taste in my mouth. So while I understand your answer, the Bulls, I not to say I expect it because like you said, with all the talent they have on that team, you think they could flip it around, but my expectations were low for them. Let's just put it that way. But the Warriors, they're under 500 through 23 games. They have to be on that list. And the Grizzlies, I know that Ja Morant is a huge deal for them, but man, that was an organization that was putting it together, was coached well, deep. I know that they lost some players, but didn't they make a move? I look at the Grizzlies and I know Ja is extremely important to their success, but 6-16, it's been terrible this season. What else are they missing down there in Memphis in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, Ja's the obvious one there that's going to change a ton. He's got the 25-game suspension, so getting close to his return there. I know he's participating in shoot-around, things like that. The other thing that's gone under the radar has been the injury to Steven Adams, and most notably who that's impacted has been Jaren Jackson Jr. That Triple J, I'm a huge fan of, a guy that I love as kind of a building block player, and I do think he should be in that conversation. But he's a completely different player when you play him at the 4 and have a real deal center next to him. He's just unfortunately not that good as a rebounder for his size. He should be, but he's not. A little bit similar to Joel, but Joel's better as a rebounder than Jaren Jackson for sure. And that's hurt them a ton. So I think if Steven Adams is there, it's a very different story. I am kind of buying the stock of the Grizzlies going on a run and getting at least in the playoff mix or back to that once Ja does return. But yeah, it's been ugly basketball right now. And I think Steven Adams has been a huge missing part of that team.
Yeah, you get Ja back in the mix, and he's going to provide so much life for that squad, energize the fan base, and at least make it worth your while to go see them play. Right now, 6-16. Yeah, I don't have any expectations for them to go down to Houston and keep this close. So give me the Rockets. You got to play in that one.
I still lean towards the plus 7.5 for Memphis.
Ooh.
I am buying that, like, they're, I guess, on the come up or on the return or getting close to playing competent basketball. As much as there is injuries, missing Steven Adams, I don't think they're as bad as they played. And I'll also point out that this is a home and home against the Rockets here, Grizzlies and Rockets. So back-to-back games here. I feel like there's enough room for a little bit magic to happen and for them to stay within that margin there.
Excellent stuff. All right, on to the next game here on DK. Let's go ahead and pull up the Lakers and the Spurs. Lakers, 3.5-point favorites, 231.5 is your total. Last night, the Lakers ended up losing to Dallas. The big man gets hurt, and that was a huge deal. Davis goes down. He played 37 minutes, 36-45, finished 37 points. LeBron, another 40-minute performance. This was definitely a game that we had our eyes on from the standpoint of the total, and it had mainly to do with the fact that, they were just in Vegas for 5 or 6 days, whatever it was, won the in-season tournament. They're going to hang a banner, and then they're on the road against Dallas. But Dallas was beat up, so I got to give Dallas a ton of credit for pulling that victory out. But if Davis was able to finish the game, do you think it would finish that way? Do you think the Lakers might have pulled it off if Davis was there at the end?
Honestly, no. I still think the Mavericks were straight up winning that game. That kind of a trend we're seeing with this Lakers team, and more so in these traditional regular season games, not the locked-in version of the Lakers that we saw in the in-season tournament, is they kind of sleepwalk through the first half, allow open shots from the perimeter, allow guys to get going, and then as they get into the second half and try and ramp up defense, these guys are all kind of feeling the flow. Like Dante Exum last night was a guy who popped off. Josh Green, I thought, played well. Grant Williams hit a couple threes and played really well. So it was a fun game to watch. I'm a believer in that Mavericks team, and I think they would have outright beat that Lakers team. And I'll also point out, or even with if Davis was on the floor, I'll also point out this will be the first time we see the Victor Wembanyama versus LeBron James on the same floor.
Ooh.
So that would be a cool moment there.
Yeah, this is a small spread, so it's kind of making me stay away altogether. Lakers 3.5. I get the back-to-back, but San Antonio's terrible.
Yeah. I lean toward, and I think it's unlikely we see Davis today. I think he didn't look like he should have been playing last night at all. Like he was kind of grimacing, holding himself, as we see with Anthony Davis all too often. So this strikes me as one that he gets the off night for, which obviously increases the Spurs' chance of winning. But yeah, I still lean towards the Lakers. Find a way to get it done. I think the Spurs team is just too bad there.
All right, give it to me from the player prop stamp. Man, nobody's up. It's too early. Yeah, because we're waiting on Davis. But if I had to ask you, putting the numbers to the side, who is going to replace that production? No Anthony Davis tonight. I know LeBron can't go out there and score 80. He might be able to play a full game. But from the standpoint of the production, who's getting the points tonight without Anthony Davis out there?
D'Angelo Russell is the immediate name that pops to my mind, that he's a guy that has been shooting the ball pretty well, getting real deal volume and high level volume, especially from the 3-point line. So I like Russell's number. And the other two that I'd keep my eye on is number 1, Austin Reeves is a guy that's been playing very well, has found his stride again after a bit of a slow start to the season. And number 2, Roy Hachimura is starting to find his legs again after he missed some time, still rocking the mask out there and having the Rip Hamilton look on the floor, but playing a little bit better basketball of late. So I like Hachimura to start making more of an impact in the box score as well.
Excellent stuff. All right, next game up on the DK board. We got 2 more to hit here. Once again, 9 games in action this evening. Jazz, who are just atrocious as well. That just ticked up to 5 now. Knicks are 5-point favorites. 228.5 is your total in this one. I just don't see how you could take the Jazz in anything. For you, though, where do you stand on this game, Sean?
Yeah, I like the Knicks -5 in this one. That the Knicks, I just feel like have such a high floor as a team that they're going to be tough to beat on a night in, night out basis. They play physical, they play defense, they'll grind it out. They have a guy like Jalen Brunson who's capable of taking over a game and really is just the captain in a winning way, the way that he plays basketball. Lauri Markkanen will be back on the floor for the Jazz, which changes things for him. And if that were not the case, that would be a much different spread in this one, I would guess. But I still think the Knicks find a way to get the win in this one and cover that 5-point margin.
Yeah, hard to argue on that one. All right, and then to the nightcap, let's do it. Final game on the board here. The Brooklyn Nets and the Phoenix Suns. Suns just beat the Golden State Warriors last night. Of course, we knew that. And then the last time that we were able to see the Brooklyn Nets, didn't they just smash somebody? They just beat up on somebody really good too. I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button here. Let me just pull that up. Brooklyn Last time Brooklyn took the floor, though, they ended up losing to Sacramento. Before that, they ended up beating Washington 124-97. So on the West Coast swing, I think it's a 5-game trip, if I'm not mistaken. So stop number 2 here. They just lost 2 nights ago to Sacramento. Pretty good there. They were 4.5-point dogs. In this one, though, tonight, right now, you're looking at a 2-point spread. Phoenix favored at home. 227 is your total in this one. Let me pull up the injury report. What's your thoughts on this game, though, to start there?
Yeah, I like Brooklyn to get the outright win in this one. That I think the Suns coming off a back-to-back, that a tough game to the Warriors, hard fought from start to finish. The Warriors even having a chance to win, going right down to the buzzer there. So the Suns really had to gut that one out. We saw Kevin Durant off the floor last night. Bradley Beal back in action, that they're easing him up and really limiting his minutes. He didn't look like himself fully last night, but still had a couple moments where you see the flashes. Going to take some time for him to get his legs under him, so I expect more of the same tonight. And on the other hand, I think Brooklyn's a team that has enough lengthy, switchable, athletic wings that can make life hard on an opposing team. So I like Brooklyn to get the outright upset in this one.
But is Kevin Durant playing today?
I would guess he's still listed as questionable. That's what last I saw. He missed last night. He was one that he was uncertain whether or not he would play. So I would guess it's probably the same thing today. I feel more confident on him suiting up today, considering that he was not outright ruled out until pretty late last night.
So tonight could be the first time we see all 3 Phoenix Suns players in action here with Booker,
Potentially.
Beal,
Yeah. I'm nervous getting excited for this, that it just feels like it keeps getting pushed back, and something pops up, but that's absolutely on the table and would be cool to see. That might change my tune a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, that's where I'm at, right? Like if you're going to get all 3 of those guys playing together, they're going to be buzzing. They're going to be buzzing. But if one doesn't play, I'm looking at Brooklyn. Did you say Brooklyn? You like Brooklyn tonight?
I like Brooklyn.
Yep. Yeah, I'm kind of buying what you're selling to as well on that one. But again, if all 3 of those players are playing, they're suiting up for Phoenix, which Durant was out there warming up. I know he was listed as a no-go, but he was out there warming up. So I think he will be a go tonight. All 3 of those players are going to play tonight. I'll pass on that one. Again, I like the Raptors. That's my one play tonight. And if you made me make another one, I'm looking at the Sixers perspective, double digits. Awesome stuff. Sean Barnard breaking it down like nobody else here on Picks and Roll. One winner. Give the people one winner. Your favorite play out of all of the games and props we just discussed. One winner. Lead us to the promised land.
Give me the Kelly Oubre over 10.5. I think we see some big time K9 action tonight. I like Oubre at over 10.5.
Excellent. Well, we could definitely use it. Finished with 7 last time, but it was a little bit of a blowout. So maybe he lost some minutes with that. But again, we know what he's capable of. So I'm right there with you on that one. All right, Sixers tonight, 7:10 p.m. Everybody enjoy the game. Good luck on everybody's plays. Once again, DraftKings Sportsbook, where we're getting odds from. This has been another edition of Picks and Roll. Be sure to follow Sean for all things Sixers and NBA at Sean_Barnard01.